Ja Morant is a sensational athlete, and this past year I saw him jump over a player and jam the ball. It was absolutely amazing. I mean, you're talking about one of the highest flying players we've seen at the point guard position since really Russell Westbrook came into the league. He came out. He came out a couple of months ago, actually a couple of weeks ago, stating that he believes he was Rookie of the Year because Zion didn't play the whole season. And the Knicks have a very good young player in R.J. Barrett over there. When you look at Ja Morant and you compare him to Zion Williamson and R.J. Barrett, the 1, 2, 3 picks in this past year's draft, how do you compare and contrast him to those other two guys?
Well, I mean, they're all so different because they play different spots on the floor. Zion is just something like we haven't seen. And I've had a chance to see him play live twice and a lot of his games on television. He's a lot more basketball skilled, I think, than people realized. I knew that from watching a lot of Duke last year. And, you just saw this guy that was a man amongst boys. But when you get him in against other grown men, he's still making ridiculously thought-provoking basketball moves. What I mean by that, he's figured out where his next step is. He's not thinking about the next step he's going to take. He's taking 2 steps ahead at this young of an age, and he really uses his body well. And he'll work on that shot, and that's something he can always get better at. The question is, with him, has always been, if he keeps that weight on the upper part of his frame, what kind of pressure does that put on his limbs? What kind of damage can that do? And that's why in New Orleans, I know they're very, very stringent on him about his diet and his work ethic and his exercise plan, and he's been willing to do whatever they've asked. That's the thing about he and Ja, and what I hear about RJ too, is they're all willing listeners to what the plan is going to be. They don't come in thinking, hey, I got this, I'm already good. With RJ, I think he has a chance to be a really, really elite level scorer with his capability of shooting the basketball. Again, it's another thing where you've always been better than everybody else. Now you're against the best in the world. So it took them a minute to figure out, where can I get open? How can I get open? When can I get open? When is the best time for me to take over and try to go one-on-one and take the shot, or let the ball movement dictate when I'm going to get an opening? And I saw that develop with him as well as the season went along in New York. With Ja, it's a different deal because he's got the ball in his hand so much more than those other two guys. He's running the show for us. And the thing with Ja that's going to be his next step, in my opinion, is that he takes over games earlier rather than in the fourth quarter. He's in the top 5 in the league in scoring in the fourth quarter, but you can see it's a conscious effort on his part a lot of times early game going, where he's trying to get other guys going, whether it's Dylan Brooks or Jonas Valanciunas, who both had monster games because Ja realized they had it going early on or they had a favorable matchup. He just kept getting him the ball, and his ability to break you down off the dribble sets other guys up. They've talked about, hey, we want him to be just a little bit more selfish, a little bit more, I can take my guy, no problem, anytime. That's not who he is. He's a totally team-oriented guy. And, he said out loud, I would be happy to have 20 assists and 0 points if we win a ball game. But I'd be happy to have 20 points and no assists if we win a ball game. What I don't want is 20 points, 20 assists, and I'm trying to dominate. We lose by 1 because, we missed an opportunity because I was focused on the stuff I'm doing. He's an incredibly astute young man, and the Grizzlies are lucky to have him. I think we can look at this draft class, these last 2 draft classes, actually, guys. You're going to see the foundation for the league for the next 10 to 12 years coming out of there with guys like Luka Doncic and Trae Young and DeAndre Ayton, and even Marvin Bagley, who hasn't had a chance to show what he can do, and then some of the picks in this last draft with Ja playing the way he is. I don't want to leave Brandon Clark out because I have yet to see another rookie in my 20-year career that has had the knowledge of when and where to take shots that this young man does. I asked Taylor Jenkins about it once. He said, Brandon knows where he can make shots and where he can't, and he's not willing to step out to places where he can't. And that was kind of a knock. They said, well, he can't shoot the 3. Well, he's shooting 40% from 3. He doesn't take him unless you leave him alone. He's not going to take a contested 3. His willingness to drive to 6-7 feet, and instead of trying to go in and dunk on everybody, to just stop and elevate and shoot a little floater because he's tremendously athletic, shows a level of basketball IQ that's far beyond his years. So I'm excited. I'm excited about those 3 rookies. I'm excited about what Brandon can do, and I'm excited about the second-year guys that have really kind of lit up the league as well, like Doncic and Young, like we were talking about, who were both deserving All-Stars this year.
From the present to the past, the Grizzlies in your broadcasting career actually pulled off one of the rare 8-1 upsets you see in the NBA playoffs.
Yeah.
They beat the Spurs. Did you think at the time it was realistic? And what do you think were the biggest keys for them in beating the Spurs that year in your time watching and broadcasting, if you did?
Yeah, no, I do remember. I remember like it was yesterday. We were down the stretch on the road, and it was us in Portland, and I want to say the Clippers or the Nuggets were fighting for 6, 7, and 8. And Lionel Hollins made a very controversial decision in some Blazers fans' minds to sit Tony Allen and Zach Randolph for the last 2 ball games. He basically said, we don't care if we play the Lakers or the Spurs. I need those 2 guys healthy a week from now. I don't need them healthy tonight. I need them healthy a week from now. And there was a long-time Portland newspaper writer who took Lionel to task in the paper. And a lot of people in Portland, because Lionel had such a great run there as a player, took his side and said, hey, let him coach his team. And then the cynics said, well, congratulations, you just got the number 1 seed in San Antonio. It was obviously in game 1 for that series, it was a big absence for them with Manu Ginobili out. At that time, he was really playing amazing basketball. And the Grizzlies in game 1 took advantage. The trade they made mid-year that year to get Shane Battier was huge. He hit a big 3. I remember it vividly. It's probably one of my favorite memories of my career because the Grizzlies had been to the playoffs 3 times previously and had never won a game. And when he hit that 3, I knew the game was ours. I also vividly remember after that game, a lot of San Antonio Spurs fans looking at us going, hey, we weren't going to have one, as we were walking around downtown San Antonio because it was a day game, and we ran into a few guys, maybe a player on the injured list who I don't know his name, but at a local bar, and we were celebrating, and we were celebrating with some Spurs fans in good nature, and they said, well, we let you have one. And I said, well, if you guys want to let us have 2 or 3, we'll do that and try to win the 4th one on our own. And in game 2, if Gary, people forget, Manu came back. He led the team in scoring the final 5 games. If Gary Neal doesn't hit a straightaway free throw that he banked in from about 30 feet, the Grizzlies are up 2-0 coming home. And then the memory I have of that series after that is how incredibly loud FedEx Forum was for game 3. Our owner at that time was Michael Heisley, who's since passed away and did wonderful things for this organization, building it to where it got to. Challenged the fans on the plaza that day, right outside of our arena. He said, I was at game 1, and it was as loud as I've seen an NBA game. I want it louder in here today. And when that happened, it was amazing. And it got even louder game 6 when the whole key to the series for the Grizzlies was Zach Randolph. He basically looked over at the bench, and I'll never forget. He walked over to the bench, looked at his teammates. He said, I got you guys. Let's go. We can do this. I've got it. And he hit a step-back, fadeaway, 20-footer, this big, bulking hulk of a man that looks like he's a bulldozer with this incredibly soft, feathery touch out of his left hand, and the ball left his hand, went through the net, and the building erupted. I thought it might come down. So it was an amazing feeling. The next series was incredible as well, but Oklahoma City was just a little bit better. But those games were incredibly close as well. And it started what was a 7-year playoff run that, people will say, well, you guys never made the finals. They made 1 conference finals appearance. They made 2 appearances in the conference semis and challenged really good teams. The West is not an easy task. And for a team that, for all their years prior to that, had never really done much of anything, that was a run that was pretty special. And, all you got to look is how many times the teams go on playoff runs of 7 or more years. It's not often. And so it was a special time. And I think that's a respect for this group now that they have. Tony Allen and Zach Randolph come around quite a bit. It's unfortunate because Mark Gasol and Mike Conley are still in the league, so they don't have as big a hand with these young guys as they would if they were retired. But the old players that come back around are really excited about this new group, and the new group has nothing but respect for them. And I think that's the great thing about it. When I started here, guys, I tried to explain to people this NBA franchise is going to be in its infancy until at least year 15. And it sounds like it's crazy, but 15 years gives you a chance to take what now is an 8-year-old and then 15 years from now he's 23, and he's going to remember going to games with his dad. He's going to remember the fun times that they had, and now that he's 23 and he's back home and he's working in the area, and now maybe he's getting married and having a family, he's a Grizzly fan for life, and that's going to get passed on from generations. So we're about to enter year 20, and now I go around cities around the country and I see Grizzlies jerseys. We have a budding superstar in Ja Morant that will be a jersey seller, Jaren Jackson, but even the old jerseys of Mike Conley and Marc Gasol, they've earned a lot of respect, and the key word there is earned. Nothing was given to them, and they get overlooked because we're a small market sometimes, but that's okay. That's just the way of the world, and it is what it is. Not New York, it's not Chicago, it's not San Francisco.
Thank God it's not New York.
But that?
Thank God it's not New York.
I mean the market-wise, people, but I've always said, this is our thing, and when we went through that run, this is ours, and people that are from the outside that don't understand it, nobody here really cares, because you'll understand it after you see it or you pay attention to it. So we're proud of it, and we also know we don't have 16 championships hanging in the rafters like Boston, or 13 like the Lakers, or whatever the numbers are, or even 6 like Chicago. But we're proud of our guys being our guys, and that's the way this group has made this city and organization feel like again.
Or 2 like New York.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's tough for me because I had a really good relationship with David Tisdale, and that just worked out. Look, I don't want to get banned from Madison Square Garden. I don't need to say anything negative about the owner. He likes to do that to people. So he's got to run his team the way he sees fit. I just think there's a lot of people that wonder what that way actually is.